Willow Creek's golden fields were softly blown by the breeze, which carried the subtle aroma of dust, wildflowers, and the murmur of past recollections. The land was painted in hues of orange and honey as evening sunshine seeped across the horizon. A modest wooden farmhouse with long faded white paint and a slightly drooping fence stood on a desolate stretch of road. The porch light was still flickering, providing a gentle, cozy glow against the approaching night. Mara Hensley, a tough and reserved widow whose heart had long been hidden behind the barred doors of grief, lived within that home. 3 years had passed since her husband Ben was killed in a ranch accident. For Mara, it wasn't just a cowboy tragedy, despite what everyone in town had said. Her warmth and joy had come to an end. She had been devoted to her young son, Eli, who was now just 6 years old, ever since that day. Feeding the horses, caring for the hens, mending what broke and never seeking assistance, the two of them remained to themselves. She was revered and even pied by the locals. They referred to her as Willow Creek's courageous widow. One man, though, didn't feel sorry for her. There was not a single man who made disparaging remarks about her behind her back. His gaze unnerved her more than anything else could have, but it was not judgmental. Cole Danner was his name. For a modest widow like Mara, Cole meant everything. Untamed, enigmatic, and dangerous, he was the type of cowboy that people needed but didn't trust. He never discussed his background or the scars he had. People said that he had once been an outlaw, that he had ridden with a crazy group in Texas, and that he may have even done things that, if true, would have led to his execution. Others claimed that he abandoned that life years ago, traveling from town to town, mending fences, tending to horses, and doing whatever needed to be done, but never remaining long enough to form friendships. Up until now, Mara had only seen him strolling along the dusty road that led to her ranch at nightfall. Little clouds of dust were raised by his boots. His eyes were hidden by his black hat. Additionally, his tattered leather jacket bore the scars of storms and miles. He had the easy confidence of a man who has experienced too much and persevered through it all. She froze as he arrived at her gate, standing on the porch with her heart pounding hard against her ribs and her palms softly resting on the wood railing. "Good evening, ma'am," he began, tipping his hat slightly and speaking in a steady, low voice that was equal parts serene and menacing. Mara remained still. Her voice was forceful but cautious as she said, "Can I help you?" He gave a small nod. "Cole Danner is his name. The foreman at Miller's told me. Ranch, you need help fixing the barn roof and repairing fences. Said you pay fairly." She paused. "I was, but I didn't realize it was becoming late at that point. You'd better return tomorrow." Cole raised his gaze just enough to meet hers. Quiet, dark eyes that appeared to listen to everything she says. "Well, tomorrow, I suppose I'll just set up camp by the creek till dawn." The tone of that didn't sit well with her. Her home was less than 0.5 miles from that creek. She pictured him sitting by a fire in the dark, by alone, perhaps staring out her windows at night. Her heartbeat quickened at the thought, not just out of fear. Her throat was cleansed. "Mr. Danner, you do what you see fit, but stay outside. Do you hear me?" One corner of his mouth lifted in a little smirk. "I wouldn't even consider that, ma'am." Then he turned and moved in the direction of the creek, vanishing into the faint orange mist of dusk. Long after he had left, Mara stood there, gazing into the fields that were getting darker and wondering why her hands were shaking. Eli asked her quietly that evening as she was putting Eli to bed. "Mama, who is that cowboy?" "Just a traveler," she remarked. "A person moving through. Will he remain?" She paused. "I hope not." However, something different was whispered by the part of her that still remembered what it was like to be held and seen. Perhaps she did want him to stay, it hinted. Bin. The following morning was calm and beautiful, the kind of morning when even the wind appeared to be at rest. Mara froze when she went outdoors carrying a cup of coffee. Standing beside the corral, Chili Danner was using his bare hands to tighten the fence post as if he had been born to do so. Beside him, his towering, white-blazed chestnut horse grazed silently. "You're up early," she murmured warily as she walked over to him. "Couldn't sleep," he said in a composed manner. "I hope it's okay if I begin without your consent." The west fence was precariously close to collapse. She crossed her arms. "You weren't hired by me." He gave a shrug. "Don't pay me then? I'll work till noon before moving on." She stopped protesting because of something in his voice. He wasn't being conceited. He simply meant it. He didn't appear to be the type of man who sought trust or compassion. For once, he just wanted to do something properly. Hours went by. He worked silently and precisely in the sun, his tan skin shimmering with perspiration and his muscles moving under his shirt as he lifted and hammered. Despite her best efforts, Mara found herself staring for too long. More than any rumor could have frightened her. There was something about the way he moved, patient, steady, and strong, that made her think of Ben. Eli was eyeing Cole like a fictional hero before noon while perched on the fence rail. He muttered, "Mama, he's strong. Eli, is he able to stay and assist us with the barn as well?" Softly, she said, "Strong individuals can occasionally cause problems. Keep it in mind." However, trouble was already there, silent, unwanted, and sporting a half-smile and a dusty hat. Cole approached the porch as the sun began to set once more. "The fence has been fixed. If you want me to finish the roof, it will take a couple more days." She paused. "Are you not planning to remain here?" He gave a nod, didn't request it. "I'll spend the night in the barn." No. Despite her best efforts, her voice faltered a little. "Do not enter, please. Avoid becoming a part of this area." Cole's gaze lingered on her face, picking up on her agony, anxiety, and possibly even loneliness. He then nodded slightly in deference. "I understand, ma'am. However, some doors aren't supposed to remain locked indefinitely." Her heart was left in disarray as he turned and went in the direction of the barn. Dessin! Rain started to fall that evening, first lightly and then heavily. Every far-off crash caused the house to tremble as thunder moved across the plains. Mara was awake and gazing up at the ceiling. She imagined cold, wet coal in the barn as she heard the wind howling against the windows. Something inside of her resisted her want to dismiss it. She grabbed her coat, went outside into the storm, and lighted a lantern. Her boots sank into the muck as the rain struck her face like needles. She froze after pushing open the door of the barn. Cole was repairing a saddle while sitting by a little candle with his shirt partially unbuttoned. He looked up surprised. "I didn't anticipate you, ma'am." She said, "You'll catch your death out here." He said, "I've been colder." Torn between dread and compassion, she swallowed. "I warned you not to enter." He gave a small smile. "And I didn't." Neither talked for a moment. The silence was broken only by the rain. She then placed the lantern close to him. "The kitchen still has stew. I'm going to leave the door open." He remained motionless, but his gaze softened. "I'm grateful. I will remain here nevertheless." She gave a slow nod. Then almost in a whisper she remarked as she turned to go, "Mr. Danner, good night. Mrs. Hensley, good night." Something felt off in her chest when she got back to the house, as if a wall had moved slightly to allow the breeze to pass through. Ben Cole became a part of her mornings and evenings after that night. He rebuilt, patched, and restored more than just her fences. He restored her day's peaceful cadence. Eli loved him. The child learned how to toss ropes, make knots, and converse with horses by following him around the property. Occasionally, Mara would gaze from the kitchen window with her hands on the sill, her emotions divided between thankfulness and an unidentified fear. In town, rumors began to circulate. People saw that the risky cowboy stayed at the widow's farm for an extended period of time. He was described as difficulty by others. Others predicted that he would transform her life. Mara tried not to pay attention, but when he stared at her, she couldn't help but feel something. That steady, smoldering look that penetrated every barricade she had ever constructed. She was standing at her door when he came after dinner one night, when the stars were shining brightly over the plains and everything appeared to be motionless enough to shatter. "Mrs. Hensley," he uttered in a barely audible whisper. You don't have to be afraid of me." She gave him a long, intense stare. "Cole, I'm not scared of you. I might be reminded of it by you." He understood and nodded. "And what's that?" She hesitated before whispering, "What it's like to be loved," while holding back her emotions. Neither of them could break the oppressive, unfamiliar silence that ensued. The ensuing weeks flew by like a silent dream. The air was filled with the sound of hammering, the creak of saddles, and a young child laughing. Surrounds the once quiet ancient farmhouse. Cole labored from sunrise to sunset, repairing, constructing, and restoring more than simply roofs and fences. Something much more profound that Mara was afraid to mention. Eli trailed him everywhere. He was now referred to as Mr. Cole by the young child. Even so, Cole consistently grinned and remarked, "Just Cole's fine." "Kid," he said without correcting him twice. Like wild grass after rain, their link blossomed quickly and powerfully. When the job was over each evening, Mara would find them sitting by the corral. As the sun sank below the hills, Cole carved small wooden horses for Eli. For a man like Cole, who had spent the most of his life fleeing tranquilly, it was almost too serene. However, he was discovering that calm might also be perilous. Mara watched them while drying her hands on a towel on the porch one peaceful evening. Cole tilted his head as he saw her. She was afraid as well as attracted to the way he stared at her. She was aware that she would never be the same after allowing him into her life. Mara couldn't fall asleep that night as the stars blinked above the ranch and the crickets hummed. She got up and went to the window, where she could still see the barn lanterns glimmer. Her robe fluttered in the gentle breeze as she silently left. Inside, Cole was reading an old book by lantern light while leaning his back against a hast stack. "You can't sleep either," she said. Startled, he looked up and gave a little smile. "I suppose my mind is too accustomed to loudness. It feels weird to be silent." "What kind of noise?" she inquired as she moved in closer. "The kind that keeps a man looking over his shoulder," he remarked in a different tone. Cole discreetly packed his riding bag that evening. With tears in her eyes, Mara approached the door. "You're leaving," she declared. "I have to," he answered. "They will return if I stay. I'm able to entice them away." She gave a headshake. "You can't keep running forever." Sadly, he grinned. "I've been doing it my entire life." Her voice broke as she took a step closer. "If you're just going to leave again, please don't enter my heart." At what she said, he froze. Their features were covered in shadows as the lantern light wavered between them. "I already did," he muttered, "and I ain't ever been inside anywhere that felt like home till now." However, Eli's tiny voice resounded from behind her before she could respond. "Mr. Cole, don't go." Cole dropped to his knees and touched the boy's shoulder. "You look after your mama, okay?" Eli's cheeks were wet with tears. "You said you'd teach me to ride fast next week." Cole's mouth constricted. "I guess we'll have to do it at a later date, buddy." After that, he got up, tipped his hat, and left for the night. 3 days went by. Not a word. The property felt like it was waiting for an impending storm. Although Mara was crumbling on the inside, she made an effort to be strong for Eli. Her heart raced at every sound she heard outside. She thought of him every time she saw a shadow. Thunder rolled once more on the 4th night, but this time it wasn't related to the weather. It was the roar of engines. There were headlights down the street. The men had returned. After grabbing Eli, Mara concealed him behind the kitchen trapdoor's floorboards. She kissed his forehead and murmured, "Remain silent. No matter what happens," she said, taking her husband's old gun from the wall while her heart was racing and her hands were quivering. Outside, the truck screeched to a stop. "Where's Dana?" the two men yelled as they emerged. "We warned him about the consequences of not making the payment." Trembling but unflinching, Mara stood on the porch. "He is no longer there. This place is not for you." The taller man gave a smirk. "Then perhaps we will take what is worthwhile." He began the stairs. A voice boomed from the shadows before he could get to her. "You will die if you touch her." With his eyes blazing with rage, Cole emerged from the shadows drenched in rain. His horse was standing behind him, panting heavily from the ride. With tears streaming down her eyes, Mara muttered, "Cole." He avoided looking at her. He kept his eyes fixed on the males. "Did you want me? I am here." It felt like slow lightning for the following few seconds. Cole was quicker than the man who pulled out his pistol. A warning shot struck the ground near his boots. Cole pleaded, "Don't make me do it," his voice trembling with anger. "You walk away right now." The men paused. The downpour intensified. The moment was as thin as a piece of wire. Eventually they turned and drove off into the storm while cursing. Breathing heavily, Cole dropped the gun. Grabbing his arm, Mara dashed down the stairs. "You might have died." Rain dripped from his cap as he gazed at her, his eyes brimming with passion. "Had no other option." "Not in regard to you." With her fingers shaking, she reached up and lightly touched his face. "You returned." He gave a small smile. "I told you that some doors shouldn't remain locked." Through her tears, she chuckled softly, then abruptly wrapped her arms around him. With the storm raging all around them, he held her tight while they both trembled with relief, love, and all they had attempted to suppress. The world seemed fresh the following morning. The dust had been removed by the rain, leaving the ground clear and vibrant. Cole was sitting on the porch stairs with a coffee mug in his hand. Eli bolted outside and leaped upon his lap. The boy said, "You're not leaving again, right?" "No, partner," Cole answered, giving Mara, who was standing by the doorway, a gentle smile. "I'm at home." Mara moved forward and took a seat next to him. There was no longer a crushing hush between them. It was quiet. With a playful smile tugging at his lips, he murmured quietly, "Are you still afraid I'll come inside?" She met his eyes, the morning light dancing in them. "No," she muttered. "Because you already did, and I don't ever want you to leave." Cole took her hand and held it tenderly, running his thumb over her fingers. "Then I consider myself to be the luckiest cowboy alive." The sound of laughter was carried by the gentle wind blowing across the golden fields. Authentic, living, and unrestricted. Something more powerful than terror had taken the place of the ghosts of the past. Love.